Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this introduction to Ayurveda. Uh, Ayurveda is really, it's a science and a practice that's been in and out of my life for some time now. It's something that I really became super passionate about because of how much it's helped me, because of how much it's really cured me from certain conditions and situations that I just felt lost with. Anytime that I spoke with an Ayurvedic practitioner or doctor or any kind of professional in the world of Ayurveda, I just always felt really heard. I felt like they facilitated a space for me to actually start to figure out what was causing some of my own imbalances and also just facilitated the space for me to talk through whatever it was that was maybe mentally or emotionally disruptive in my being and that was manifesting physically. So through this practice I really was able to just come out on the other end of a really of a handful of just health conditions and overall just create a better, more balanced state of being for myself. And I'm really excited to just share these practices with as many people as possible, really. So what is it? What exactly is Ayurveda? Ayurveda is sometimes referred to as the sister science to yoga because yoga and Ayurveda are meant to be practiced together. That doesn't mean that you need to have a yoga practice to practice Ayurveda, and that doesn't mean that you need to practice Ayurveda in order to, be practicing yoga. It's totally fine if you maybe came into one practice at some point or another practice at another point. But really, the science behind that is yoga traditionally. So, yoga asana, the stuff that we see in gyms and at yoga studios now, that practice wasn't always about the physical practice. In fact, it's still not. If you study yoga, if you start to dive deep into the actual science of yoga, it's really a mental and spiritual practice. Traditionally, all of those poses are just a part of the bigger, broader practice of what yoga really is. So, yoga at the heart of it is meant to help us connect to our soul and to help us remember that we actually are a soul and we are living in a human body. Uh, if you've ever studied yoga philosophy with me or in any other place at any other place, that's one of the first things that we learn, right? In texts like the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita, we learn that we are a soul, that we are all loving beings, and we're actually here operating as human beings on planet Earth. And that's hard. It's really difficult. It's difficult to be here. It's difficult to actually live a life, have a job, keep up with a yoga practice and move through day-to-day life in a way that's balanced because life is always throwing us out of balance. We live in extremes. We're sick, we're well, we're happy, we're sad. And yoga traditionally is helps us come back to that balance. Ayurveda helps us come back to that balance too, because Ayurveda is really the study of finding balance as human beings here on planet Earth, right? Everything that we look at, if I look at my hand, if I look outside the window, everything's made of the elements: earth, fire, air, water, and ether. And each of those elements is made up of certain qualities. So there's qualities that are hard, sharp, mobile, hot, cold. And we see that in the trees. We see that in the spices and the foods that we eat. We see that in our emotions, right? So Ayurveda teaches us to recognize that in everything. And then to also acknowledge that the qualities that I have within myself that I was born with are going to interact with the qualities in the world around me. And I have the power to either find balance in that or just allow myself to move out of balance. So we're always trying to find balance. In Ayurveda, there's something called the doshas. So the doshas are really they're made, and we're going to run through the doshas in this as well. The doshas are made up of the elements of earth, fire, air, water, and ether. And the doshas are Pretty much seen in everything. So we start with the qualities, right? In Sanskrit, those are called gunas. Qualities, by qualities, I mean cold, hot, sharp, light, and there's 20 of those. Those qualities make up the elements, and then the elements make up the doshas. The doshas are what make us up, and they're what make up the world around us. So when we start to understand that, we can start to understand ourselves a little bit better, our emotions, our digestion, our relationships, all of those kinds of things. One of the main principles in Ayurveda is that like increases like, and then opposites balance. So I use this example a lot. If it's like, I don't know, 10 degrees out on a cold winter day in New York, and I step outside and it's freezing cold out there, if I drink a frozen cold smoothie, I'm gonna get more cold, right? But then if I have a hot soup or I drink a hot tea, then I'm gonna end up being a little bit, I'll end up a bit more balanced. I'll start to warm up. So it's cold outside and I bring in the opposite quality of something hot, I might get a little warmer. If it's cold outside and I bring in more cold qualities, I'm going to get more cold, right? And that's how kind of how we see everything. Same thing right now we're going to get to this too about spring and the seasons. Uh, when it's springtime, sometimes people suffer with things like springtime allergies. It's really because the spring has this damp quality to it where, the snow is melting, it's gonna rain a little bit more, so naturally outside it's more muddy, it's a little bit more, it feels like thick when you walk outside and you try to get from one place to the other. The same thing's going on inside of us. So if I eat heavy foods and I have really cold drinks, then I'm gonna increase those qualities and I'm gonna end up with, more of an allergy problem. So the doshas, we'll go through the doshas. The doshas, again, are made up of the elements, and kapha dosha, we'll start with that, is made up of the elements of earth and water. And remember, the elements are also made up of certain qualities. Here on this slide, on the second line here, the qualities that make up kapha dosha are oily, cool, heavy, slow, dull, smooth, soft, stable. Those are the qualities that make up earth and water. Earth and water make up kapha dosha. So kapha dosha, the main season is in the springtime. All of the doshas are going to oversee the seasons, the times of day, and also certain sites within the body. Uh, the time of day for kapha is, and I'm jumping around a little bit from the slide. The time of day is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if you notice, if you ever wake up, if you do wake up around the times like from 7 a.m. to, I don't know, 9 a.m., if you're someone who wakes up and you have constant problems with getting motivated, getting out of that sluggish state, then it's because you're waking up in this kapha time of day where everything's already slow and heavy and dull. I've had friends and clients that, and myself too, this I see in myself, where if I wake up just around 6 a.m. or a little bit before that, I actually have more energy. I actually feel a little bit better. I'm actually more motivated. And it's because I've just kind of woken up and gotten up right before kapha really starts to come out in the daytime. The function of kapha is structure and cohesion. So we need kapha to actually function in life. And then time of life, everybody as a human, all of us as human beings will, as we go through life, the doshas are more dominant throughout different portions of our life. That doesn't mean that they ever go away. But when we're little kids, from the time we're babies throughout adolescence and as we're just growing up, we're in our kapha time of life where we're actually finding structure. We're finding a way to get stability. We're finding ways to figure out who we are and get our grounding. And even if you look at babies and really, really tiny toddlers, they've got these qualities, right? They're pretty slow, they're really soft, they're stable, they don't move around all that much. Well, babies at least don't, they can't really move too much on their own. And we see that through not just time of life, but also time of day. And then throughout the times of year. So kapha dosha is spring, and then the time of life, early years, time of day is 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. You also I want to just note that because that's a really ideal time to start to go to sleep. If we can start to wind down before 10 p.m., that's ideal. That's an ideal time to really start to set ourselves up to have really just quality sleep because these doshas are present. I'm sorry, these qualities are present right at this time. So also people, I'm not going to get too into uh the doshas in terms of individuals, but a kapha person, someone that's got a lot of kapha, that's born with a lot of kapha, that person is going to naturally have these qualities. A kapha person is going to have really thick hair, really smooth, supple skin, because one of the qualities is oily, right? They're going to have really just like lubricated joints where they don't crack their ankles don't crack all that much whenever they're moving around. A kapha person is someone with a lot of kapha is also going to have a really great immune system. They're steady, right? They're stable. They don't get sick all that often. So it's a really good dosha to have that's dominant in someone's constitution. All the doshas are really beautiful, but kapha is a really just steady one. If you have a friend that is mostly kapha, this is someone that's going to be super duper reliable, someone that's super steady, someone that you could depend on. A partner, if you have a kapha partner, this person's going to be really loyal, not going to want to leave. Uh, Kapha people, people that have a lot of kapha, also like routine. So it's going to be hard to get them to move from one, thing to the next. They might always want to go to the same restaurant, always go to that same class, always do the same thing, and they don't get sick of it. Pitta dosha. So Pitta is made up of the elements of fire and water. Some of the qualities of fire and water are penetrating, oily, sharp, hot, light, and spreading. And you'll see that some of the qualities are similar in throughout some of the doshas, right? So something like oily is also a quality that's in kapha dosha. It's also in pitta dosha because both of those doshas have the element of water that make them up. The season of Pitta is summertime. If you think about that, right? Fire and water, fire and water. When else do you feel fiery outside? Summertime. If it's like 12 p.m., sun's out, and it's July, and you live in a place where you actually experience the seasons, summertime is like the key example of Pitta. We need Pitta within us. We're made up of all of the doshas. We're made up of all three, but the main site, one of the main sites, is the small intestine, literally where the food gets cooked. So pitta transforms food into nutrients that move throughout our body. We need pitta for digestion and for transformation. And then the time of life, pitta time of life is usually it's usually like age 30 to 60. It's not like you turn 30 years old and then suddenly, whoa, now I'm in my pitta time of life. It might happen for some people, maybe at the time of puberty. You might even think back to a time when you were going through puberty. There may have been a lot of really like deep imbalances, not deep, but some imbalances that felt very fiery. Maybe there was a lot of sweating. Maybe there was really oily skin. Maybe there were a lot of sharp feelings when if you had just started your cycle. So Pitta might begin around that time where, real transformation is starting. It's also like the get things done time. So the time of life from 30 to 60, most people are really getting their career under control. Maybe they're starting a family or they're buying a house or they're settling in what they're calling a home, or they're really making something out of what it is that they love to do. So really just finding the self after they've gotten grounded. Time of day, this is a fun one to talk about. Time of day is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is like an ideal time to get stuff done. If you work with people, this is a great time to have meetings. It's a really good time to just start to assign projects and get stuff happening, get the ball rolling with things. If you work for yourself, it's a great time to schedule in your work time, right? Get on the computer, do what you got to do, and just get it done between these hours. With that said, at 10 p.m., that's when Pitta time is starting. So you might notice around 10 p.m., you might get like a second wind. This might be a time where you were tired, but you didn't really start to unwind for bed before 10 p.m. and now it's like 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock, and you want to do the dishes, meal prep, change your sheets, do the laundry, clean the floors. It's because Pitta time of night has just started, and it's that get things done kind of energy. It's not ideal to be up during this time, according to Ayurveda, because it's the time that if we're sleeping, if we're resting between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., all of our organs in our body that really allow us to detox and to process, those are working a little bit harder at this time, and they're helping us just process the day, process whatever we may have eaten, and it's really like a good cleansing time to be asleep during this time. With all that I just said about pitta dosha, you might be able to think about pitta dominant people in your life, or maybe when pitta's been really dominant in your life and your emotions and the way that you maybe think or the things that you do. Someone that's got a lot of pitta, a pitta dominant person, these are your friends that have their closet organized by color and season. These are the friends you've got that have their bookshelves organized by like colors or author or whatever. There's some kind of organization. They like to-do lists. They like putting things on it. They like writing, make a to-do list on the to-do list. That way they could cross something off on the to-do list. Because Pitta is again fire and water, that those elements and that energy of transformation, these are your friends that are going to get really hangry, right? That when they're hungry, they get angry because they usually have a strong digestion. There's a lot of heat in these people. They probably have lighter features, maybe lighter eyes. One of the other sites of Pitta is actually in the eyes. So if you have a Pitta friend and they're mad at you, it's scary to look them in the eyes. It could feel like they're actually penetrating through you with their gaze. So, Pitta people, they're fired. They're fired up. They get things done. They've got organization, and it's also a little bit scary when they're angry. So, just be mindful of that. So, Vata dosha is air and ether. Elements, air and ether, and then the qualities are dry, light, cold, subtle, mobile. So Vata is the only dosha that moves. The main site is in the colon. Function is movement. Vata is going to move things around. Time of life is around 60 years and over. For women, it's usually around the time that menopause starts. So around this time too, uh, osteoporosis starts to become an issue with a lot of people, at least this day and age in modern day in here in planet Earth, because the bones are actually really porous and they have a lot of air. That involves a lot of the air element in the bones. So as we age, if we're not really conscious of it, as the air element increases in us, it could start to affect the parts of our body that have or are made up of mostly air. It's also a time of life that is a really beautiful and reflective time of life. So, from the age of around 60, maybe a few years later, maybe a few years earlier, depends on the person, it's a time to really either teach or continue to learn. It's a time to really lean into any kind of artistic abilities that you may have. It's a time to really just enjoy. Time of day is 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So that 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. time, generally, we ideally are asleep at that time. According to Ayurveda, it's really nice to be asleep during that time of night. You might notice you have certain dreams around that time. For a lot of people, that's around the time where the brain starts to dream. If you can wake up around 6 a.m. or even a little before that, you may feel like you're a little lighter. You may look at your alarm clock and think, oh, it's 5:30, it's 6 a.m. Why am I getting up right now? But the second that you sit up and actually walk around, the elements that are present in that time of day are a little bit lighter. The energy is a little lighter. You may notice that you actually have some energy, more energy than you thought you would have around that time. This is also if people have a vata imbalance, when people have a little bit of a vata imbalance, they may not sleep well. So they may end up waking up around the time of like 3 a.m. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is also a great time to, this is the vata time of day. It's a great time to do something that's creative. It's a great time to maybe get outside and take a few breaths in nature. Vata people with a lot of vata, these are the people who sometimes they just don't have their feet on the ground. This is the friend that you may have that is traveling a lot, that has a lot of, different jobs, jumps from one thing to the other. There's sometimes hard for them to find grounding. For Vatas, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to even gain weight because they're always moving. They forget to eat. It's again the elements of air and ether. So in people that have these elements present in them or really dominating them, they maybe might not be able to finish their sentences. When they're out of balance, they might forget that they made a date with you. They might forget that they were supposed to be here at this time and now they're gone, or they forgot to tell you they're traveling. So Vata people are a lot of fun, and we all have Vata dosha in us too. So Vata dosha is that it's what gives us the ability to be creative, to make changes, to move, to say, "Hey, I want to do this, and I'm going to do it." So again, we need all of those within us for sure. The thing with the doshas as well is when we look at it in terms of people and what makes us up, when we look at Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, at the time of conception, it's determined how much of each dosha we have in us. So some people are a lot of Pitta, a lot of Kapha, a little bit of Vata. Some people are mostly Vata, a little bit of Kapha, a little bit of Pitta. I forgot to mention back on Vata that the time of the season is the late fall into winter. And if you think about it, if you live in a place where you experience seasons, this is a time where the air actually feels really cold. It feels light. Uh, it's also a time where the leaves on the trees start to fall down. Nature itself is starting to just shed and get lighter. With that said, what happens around September for some people? School starts. It's the start of a school year. So for some people that have homes and children, it can be a time that feels like it's a little bit empty, like things are getting a little bit more uh like there's more space. There's a lot of spaciousness that comes with vata. So keep it simple. When you understand the doshas and their qualities and the times of the day, and even what your makeup is, what your unique makeup is, you can start to understand why you're getting sick. You can start to understand why you feel great when you eat one meal, but your friend who ate the same meal feels awful. You'll understand why your favorite food might taste amazing and make you feel great in one season, but then in another season, it doesn't. It just makes you feel out of balance. The more that you can understand the qualities and what you're feeling when you're feeling out of ease, what you're feeling after you eat something, what you're feeling after you've just gotten some kind of difficult information, what you're feeling when you've gotten really great information, right? If you could start to name the qualities that you're experiencing, you can then match those qualities to uh, some of the elements. And then you can match up the elements with the doshas. And then from there, you could not kind of, you can for sure start to figure out what it is that you've got to do to bring yourself back to balance, right? An example of that is like if someone is constantly eating raw salads, raw food, drinking smoothies, which is just raw fruit, running around on no schedule, has lots of meetings all the time throughout the day, never really writing anything down, running all the time, taking different types of classes all the time. Maybe they're in like a boot camp class one day, a spin class the next day, then they go for a run after it's all over. Even talking about that, I feel like I can't really breathe. There's no grounding to that. So that person's going to maybe have a vata imbalance, too much air. And then with that, they might find that they have disrupted sleep. They might find that they forget to eat, or when they do eat, they feel like the food is just like they're burping after, they have sour burps. They may feel bloated all the time. So it might look like on paper, wow, I'm doing all the right things, I'm eating all the right food, I'm taking all the right classes, but I still feel icky. I can't sleep. I feel like I'm not digesting my food. It's because there's just too much vata there. So there's different ways to look at different imbalances once you figure some of this stuff out. And you don't have to figure it out yourself. That's what I'm also here for. And a good way to kind of start this is just notice how you're feeling, right? A lot of yoga, the practices of yoga and Ayurveda are about noticing. If I am just sitting here right now and I feel like, whoa, I've been really angry lately, I'm really judgmental, I'm constantly feeling hot. Ayurveda is gonna teach us that taking something like a fast-paced, energetic, powerful vinyasa class, or like a really high intensity, workout class, that's gonna make those qualities, which are very pitta, fire and water, fire, it's gonna increase those qualities. So maybe instead of taking like a fast-paced, all over the place practice of whatever I might be drawn to, maybe I do some kind of like really centered weightlifting, or maybe I take a slow, smooth yoga class, uh, doing something that actually brings down that fire element and helps me cool down or even focus a little bit more. So if I'm waking up late and I'm feeling sluggish, if I feel like there's just a heaviness in my stomach, or I just feel like I'm not motivated at all, uh, I probably don't want to go take a restorative class, right? Where I just lie around. I mean, restorative isn't just lying around, but a good part of it is, and we need that sometimes. But taking a class or doing an activity where there isn't much movement, that's going to increase those qualities of kapha. I'm going to feel more sluggish, more heavy. So this is the time where I might maybe take a fast-paced vinyasa class, or I might go and take like a spin class. I might do something that moves me around a little bit. I might just go for a walk and walk at a little bit of a quicker pace than I'm used to. When it comes to feeling frenetic, like I can't hold a thought, like I just don't have my feet on the ground, right? Maybe Vata's pretty high. This might be where I just like get outside and get my feet on some grass. If you don't live in a place where you can do that, maybe you literally just lie on the ground, or just sit and take a few cycles of breathing, grounded breathing practices, and just taking the opposite of what you're feeling, right? If you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. Everything feels crazy today. I can't get a thought straight. I'm not getting anything done. Take 5 minutes and cultivate the opposite of what it is that you're feeling. Long, deep breaths. Do something that's grounding. Have warm tea, and then it'll start to balance that stuff out. So sometimes we just get so caught up in everything we need to do for everyone else, right? You might be listening to this right now or here in this class and thinking, whoa, this sounds like a lot of work. How do I actually even incorporate any of this into my life? It really just comes down to paying attention, paying attention to how it is that you're feeling, right? So if you want to do this right now, you may, you might even just pause this and do it another time, do it at some other time when you have the time to do it. But just sit tall, close your eyes if you feel like you're in a place where you can do that. And then just start to breathe in and out through just your nose. Notice the quality of your breath. Are you breathing all the way down into the low belly, or is it just kind of stopping in the chest? Are you able to breathe all the way out? And then how are you feeling? How do you feel right now? Do you feel energized? Do you feel tired? And what's your energy level like? Do you feel like you can keep going for another hour at the level that you're at if you're feeling pretty energized? Or do you feel like you're just gonna stop everything after the next maybe 20 minutes? And then what are you feeling mentally, emotionally, in your heart? Are you frustrated right now? Are you grateful? Do you feel loved? What do you want to cultivate more of into your life right now? This is a great way to start your day. I don't even think that was 5 minutes. I didn't even think we took 5 minutes to do that. I did move through it just a little quickly, but hopefully you got something out of that. And you might just get up and before you even get out of your bed in the morning, just sit up and just ask yourself literally, how am I feeling? Can I focus on my breathing? What do I need today? That's where all of this starts. So dinacharya and Ayurveda and also asana. So dinacharya is our daily routine and it's one of the most powerful practices in Ayurveda. Nature moves in a rhythm. When you look outside, and if you just stare out a window for like 24 hours, everything moves in a rhythm. Nature, animals, everything will start their day, move through their day, unwind from their day, and then sleep. So when we tap into what we're doing each day, Ayurveda really stresses that we should have some kind of daily rhythm. So something that we do every day, some kind of routine, some kind of ritual. For a lot of us who practice yoga, you might maybe practice yoga in the morning, and that's something that you do every day. Maybe you take a shower every morning, and that's a really good start, right? You could just build off of that into your dinacharya, into your practice. Ayurveda stresses that it is ideal to try to eat meals around the same time each day. So if you can't really do that, aim to have lunch. Aim to have lunch around the same time every day. And that could be within like a 2, 3 hour window, ideally just maybe a 2 hour window. And we try to have lunch be also the biggest meal of the day as well. So with that, again, dinacharya is our daily rhythm. And that is different for each person, right? What works for you on a day-to-day basis might be different from your partner or your best friend, might be different from me. So it's really important to figure out what works for you, what works for the individual each day. We talked about the times of day in terms of pitta kapha vata. Uh, Again, ideally, and this isn't an ideal perfect world, we try our best, we do the best that we can. Would be really nice to wake up around 6 a.m. Not all of us can do that, but it's okay. 6 a.m., it might be a little bit easier to wake up because we're in that vata time of day. If we find ourselves waking up in the kapha time of day, which is between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., just remember you might feel a little groggy. It might feel like it's a little difficult to get things going. Maybe not. Maybe for you, this is an ideal time to be waking up. Pitta, ideally, we're having lunch in the pitta time of day, right? Because the fire element is present and the digestion is strongest around this time of day. So maybe around 12, 1 p.m. That would be like ideal to have lunch in that time. And then ideally in bed, asleep by 10 p.m. or at least around 10, 11 p.m. That way you've got enough sleep to wake up the next day. If you have a schedule or a job that does not allow you to work in this Ayurvedic clock, totally fine too. There's ways to work around that, and there's for sure ways to adapt this to your schedule. So it's not all just black and white. Everything's very, very adjustable in terms of Ayurveda. And I mean, these are just some questions to think about, just some things to become aware of as you move through your day, as you move through your life. Think about the pitta time of day, right? Between those hours of 10 and 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Just check in with how you're feeling. Do you feel like you're getting overstimulated? Are you reaching for like a third coffee during this time? Do you feel like you've burnt out already? Do you feel like you haven't stopped moving or you've got to get X, Y, and Z done and you're just in this go, go, go mode? Notice if that's happening and then maybe bring in a practice that'll just help you even that out, help you literally cool down from that. During the kapha time of day, also that kapha time of night, what qualities do you need during this time? So if you're waking up in that kapha time of the morning between around that 6 to 10 a.m. window, and you're feeling really sluggish, you feel like you just want to go back to bed, what could you do to counter that? You might maybe be able to, not maybe, you can definitely incorporate heating spices. You might make a tea in the morning that starts to activate your digestion, that starts to actually activate a little bit more fire. And that can help you really come out of this kapha time of day in a way that balances kapha. You might do some movement during this time if you feel like you're sluggish. And then vata, when vata's highest, what do you think you would need to do? Is there too much movement? Do you have a focus? Maybe it's a time to cultivate some kind of grounding practices, right? So 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Are you feeling like you're frenetic, like you can't quite get your thoughts straight? What do you need to do? Maybe journal. Maybe just have a re-grounding session for yourself around this time. All right. Lastly, the last thing we're touching on is Ritucharya. So this means living life according to the flow of the seasons. I mentioned this a little bit before, but for example, the food that I might like to eat during the summer is not going to make me feel that great during the winter. The food that I eat during the winter is not going to make me feel that great during the summer, right? If I have a uh, really maybe like nutritious, well cooked stew that's cooked with a lot of root vegetables and has warming spices in it. That's really great to have on a cold winter afternoon. But if I have that at 12 or 1 p.m. on a hot summer day, I'm not going to feel too good, right? So right there is one of the best examples that I could think of about how we really have to ebb and flow with the seasons. It would be kind of nice if we could just eat the same thing, all through the year, same thing every day, but we won't feel great if we do that. And then just winter into spring, this is just reiterating the seasons. Winter into spring is kapha season. And this is a time where the qualities of kapha are present. So there's heavy qualities, there's qualities that are maybe feeling like that are causing you to feel sluggish. It's a time where people sometimes experience imbalances like seasonal allergies, or the cold and flu season might start up again. It's really because things are moving slower. Things are moving slow outside, so things are moving a little bit slower inside too. And we want to counter that by, again, incorporating things like warming spices, things that actually stoke our internal heat. And if we pay attention to that, we're usually less likely to start to get sick around this time. Summer's pitta season. So it's, if you think about the idea of summer vacation makes me think of just like a lazy day by the pool or kind of like lounging at the beach or taking it easy. We have summer vacation in parts of the world for a reason, and it really goes in line, it is aligned with this concept of pitta season and Ayurveda, where summer already has so much heat in it. And if I am constantly go, 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 work, 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 this, that, whatever, more fire, let's go. I'm going to burn out. I'll literally burn out. So summer's a really good time to get out by an ocean or a body of water, have those cooling foods, right? Like watermelon and foods that will literally cool us down and prevent the body from overheating. Because when the body feels warm, or when fire is present, I'm also going to be like more fiery in my thoughts and in my reactions. I might be more likely to snap at somebody or to get angry about something. So if we can control pitta, if we could keep that balanced, then we're less likely to have indigestion. We're less likely to be snippy with the people that we love. Then fall into winter is vata season. This is a time too where uh, people sometimes talk about things like seasonal depression, where they feel lonely. There's a loneliness that can sometimes come with the fall and with the winter. What kind of practices can you incorporate into your life that help support you not feeling lonely How can you feel nurtured and taken care of? This is a time where we usually encourage things like baths, lots of self-care rituals, spending time with the people that we love. Look at some of the holidays, right? A lot of the holidays, like Thanksgiving, if you celebrate that, things like Christmas, Hanukkah, holidays that call in this kind of desire to be around people, or if we're not around people, even the desire to just connect with ourselves a little bit deeper and just nurture that connection and feel nurtured. There's the whole also pumpkin spice latte uh trend that comes out around fall, right? Fall into winter. Look at the spices that are in that. They're grounding spices. They're spices that are warming and grounding. So incorporating foods like that really start to help pacify excess vata through vata season. I know that this was a lot of information, that this definitely can feel like a lot of information. If you're wondering what your dominant dosha is or what your imbalance is, I've got a quiz on my website. You could just go to lisabermudez.com and I'll share that also in the notes. And I think it should be right up there, either in the Ayurveda tab, or you could just lisabermudez.com/quiz. And I have two quizzes up. One will help you figure your dosha out, and that which is your prakriti. So your prakriti is what you are born with, and then your Vikruti, that is what your current imbalance is. Those quizzes are just for fun. They're not incredibly accurate. And the best way to actually figure out what's going on with your digestion, what's going on with your health, what's going on with everything is to really study the stuff much deeper and to also even work one on one together. So definitely keep learning, definitely keep checking out different classes. If you want to work one on one, we could certainly do that. I also have these 8-week Ayurveda lifestyle programs that I do periodically throughout the year, where for 8 weeks, you've got me with you and your other classmates, other participants of the group of the program, and we meet twice a week. And it's just a full-on immersion into lifestyle practices, Ayurveda classes, Ayurveda history, learning more about the seasons, about the ways to eat, about the practices. We also, you'll get a chance to even work one on one with me to figure out what might be imbalanced within you and what's going on and all of that. And I started these because I felt like working one on one with people is amazing, but usually with a one on one consultation, we'll meet once and then have a follow up. And then sometimes I never hear from anybody again. And I really think that I know I need this. I need accountability. And I work much better when I'm working consistently with somebody. And I know that I'm going to be in class too, twice a week, or watch the recordings of those classes. I function better in a program, and I think most people do. So I'll share that information as well.